Okay. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill Hurley, will you lead us?
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Item number 3, resignation from the Police Commission. Joseph P. Caffarelli III, 129 College Place, term 11/20 to 11/25. He resigned on November 15th, 2024. I would like to thank Joe for his service. I think he's moved out of town to be closer to family, but he's been an amazing public servant over the years. Next, item number 4, and Mary Hogue.
There's a hand up, Bill.
Oh, we have a hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Bill, I couldn't unmute myself. I just wanted to also express my gratitude to Joe Caffarelli for serving on the Police Commission. He was a really great member of that commission. A lot of respect for the police department and a really great member of our community. And unfortunately, he's moved out of town. So we will miss the Caffarellis. They were very good citizens for our town.
Wish them luck and good happiness in their new community.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, Sustainable Fairfield Task Force, and this requires the Board of Finance and RTM approval to hear, consider, and act. To hear, consider, and act on approving the acceptance of a grant in the amount of $5,000 from the Bunnell Family Fund to the Sustainable Fairfield Task Force, and further approving the appropriation of the grant funds to pay expenses incurred by the Sustainable Fairfield Task Force to pay for pumpkin composting and other recycling and waste needs that Sustainable Fairfield determines. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have just an amendment for the housekeeping, just in reading the backup for this. This donation was being made from Vanguard Charitable, so I've just asked that Vanguard Charitable be put in front of the Bunnell Family Fund. So Vanguard Charitable hyphen Bunnell Family Fund.
Second, any comments or questions, Brenda?
No.
Any from the public? Becky, you're on mute.
Back on mute. No, you're back.
I think we just
Did it twice.
Now, am I off now?
Yeah, you're off. Yeah.
So I have a question, and it's more to do with the size of the donation. I know that.
Hey, Becky.
Yeah.
You probably want to hold off until we pass the amendment.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll talk about the main motion. So, seeing no other comments, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now on the amended motion, any comments, questions? Go to the public, Ms. Bunnell.
Yeah. I'm just wondering whether I could ask the town to think about whether a donation of this whether donations could be considered size dependent. So for example, I would consider this a reasonably small donation as opposed to a 50,000 donation, which would be really big and might need all 3 bodies to accept it. Would the town be open to, say, things that are under 10,000 be only able to be accepted by the Board of Selectmen, which might just simplify the process and allow proper procedure to be happen, but not have to inconvenience all 10 bodies?
That's a good question. Town attorney's not on, but we can certainly ask him. And if it has any nexus with the charter, maybe that would become part of the charter revision. But I'm unclear whether it does. So I think it's in here because of his advice. So and he's not here today.
Okay.
But thanks. Yeah, we'll take note of that and ask him. Yeah. Yes.
Just for, I don't know if you have detail on this yet, for the pumpkin composting, I know that it's done at the schools. Do you foresee it happening at other locations? And I don't know, Mary or Becky, or not sure yet, haven't gotten that far, but we knew.
Well, we
Yeah, it would be better if you want to just.
I mean, this would be actually paying for last year's composting and this year's composting. It's being done this year at 10 schools, and I believe it's still going on at a couple of the schools. There are dumpsters at 10 of the elementary schools right now. So if you still have some pumpkins, just check to see whether your local elementary school still has their dumpster. You can bring it during non-school hours. We're also encouraging people to compost their pumpkins at We Care Denali as well.
not in the food.
So people have pumpkins, they can go
Yeah, and I think it's always planned to be at the school.
at the schools.
Because it's decentralized, it's already.
But not during school hours. You have to go on weekends and after school, just because of school regulations.
We just said after 4
So after 4 o'clock at all schools
and weekends,
and on weekends. Okay.
just because it doesn't matter what level. It's after school for all.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Back to the board.
18 tons last year.
18 tons. Okay.
Ton of
I'm
pumpkins.
writing this down for the newsletter. Thank you. All right, thank you. Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much, Becky, for your generosity. And thank you, Mary. Item number 5, Town Librarian, to hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Value Line Investment Services for access to financial research information. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. We can do these all together. To hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Gray House Publishing for a patron database for rating banks, credit unions, insurance, investments, consumer guides and financial literacy, basic courses, and a customized Medigap buyer's guide and calculator. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. Here, consider and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Sterling Brandworks for hosting the library's website and basic support. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Scott?
Everything's pretty much self-explanatory. These are public facing databases that the public use, some that we've had for some time, and the other is just the hosting for our website. We just launched a new website. This will be the hosting service. It's the first year, so there is some hours pre-purchased for guidance and help if anything goes wrong with the site. So that should actually go down in the next few years. The site redesign was actually paid for by the Board of Trustees.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, just if I may, to clarify, Scott, in your backup, it says there's 3 contracts, one for $9,975, one for $4,850, and one for $3,060. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, I just for the record, I'm gonna abstain because they're all under 10,000.
Right. Okay. Any comments or questions? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Thanks, Scott. Item number 6, Police Chief, to hear, consider, and act on approving an agreement between the town of Fairfield and the State Department of Transportation regarding law enforcement safety device encroachment permits. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, this is an encroachment permit with the state. I believe there are currently 6 locations that we're requesting so that we are able to put holes in existing infrastructure for law enforcement safety devices for law enforcement use.
Any comments or questions from the board?
If I may, is there any funding attached to this, Chief?
So it's just an agreement for approval for the encroachment permit.
With the state.
There's no funding.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there funding in the budget just for, if we approve this and you move forward with this, for any sort of maintenance or?
Yeah, so the approval is on behalf of the vendor, so they are doing the work for us, and I am signing off on the encroachment permits with the agreement with the state.
Okay.
And the approval for the infrastructure that will go there is, the funding for that is in place.
Any other questions or comments? The board? Being none, go to the public. Any comments? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're up again. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry,
We
purchasing.
got a lot of backup on this.
You don't need the chief for this. So purchasing authority, to hear, consider, and act on the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and Bismarck Construction Company Incorporated, Milford, Connecticut, to provide labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary for the lower level toilet renovation project at the Fairfield Police Department as detailed in the Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-21 and Bismarck construction bid submissions dated October 29th, 2024 for a total base bid of $164,000 with additional authority to enter into change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. May I have a motion?
Second.
Eli?
I'm not sure if Adam's on. Adam, do you wanna give your?
Adam, you're on mute. Okay, there we go.
Yes, hi, I'm here. So we're here today to get authorization to sign this contract with Bismarck Construction. We put out bid number 2025-21. We got a great response in terms of number of bidders. I believe there were 6, several of which were very competitive. Ultimately, we're recommending award to Bismarck at $164,000. Just for full discretion, there was a bid that was a couple $100 less, but a part of the bid submission was they had to submit number of days to complete the project, and Bismarck had a project completion 3 months sooner. So after evaluating, we determined that the extra $300 or so was worth the savings in time. So that's just for full disclosure. I wanted to mention that, but otherwise, we've got a good track record with Bismarck. This is a project that Eli's looking forward to getting underway so that further projects can then line up.
Right, so just to emphasize, the timeline is especially important, right? Because other projects are dependent on this getting done.
That's correct. Yeah, the bigger police department renovation
Right.
Is dependent on this. This was kind of born because we needed a swing space for when they do the locker room under the bigger police renovations. So we decided to renovate the 2 bathrooms in the basement, get that done, and then we can get started.
All right. Any comments? Yeah.
Just in terms of timing, once it's approved, do you foresee starting as soon as possible, and it should take 2 to 3 months?
Yes, within a month, just to get, the building permits through and the submittals through, ordering materials, but everything's pretty off the shelf, so we should be able to start soon.
Excellent. Any comments? Yes.
Just to
Brenda.
clarify, this is the funding that we, this is the contract with the funding that we authorized to move out of the ARPA.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
I just wanna thank both Adam and Eli for their work on this because they pretty much, we started it and they kind of just took it over, and once they took it over, it got done very quick, so I just wanna thank them for their work. It's really been.
That's really, I appreciate that. I think that's really good to hear, and thank you, Eli, for your work. All right, any comments from the public? None, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Item number 8, project manager, here an update on Penfield Pavilion. Eli.
All right. Penfield Pavilion, we are 100% complete with the removal of the Julian fill. Overall, it was 11,475.6 tons of fills removed from that site. So we are 100% complete. There's no more trucks. There's no more stockpile. It is 100% complete. Removed from the site. Grade beam removals, we are also 100% complete with that. Helical piles, we have also 100% complete. We installed a total of 448 helical piles. So the pile caps which follow the helical piles, we're about 93% complete with the pile caps. The remaining pile caps not built yet are in front of the building that just support the overhangs for the decks. So the building is 100% sitting on its new foundations with FEMA regulations as we speak. So underneath the building, there's nothing that is old anymore. It's all new. Over the next month, the contractor will be focusing on retying in utilities, installing hardscapes, sidewalks, doing some paving, some curbing in front of the building, and installing the deck boards and the handrails. Overall, happy to report we are ahead of schedule. We are looking at a substantial completion at the end of January. So that is ahead of our spring date that we promised Parks and Rec. Change orders, 97% of our change orders was due to the increase in Julian fill and bringing in clean certified fill back into the site. As of right now, we're able to handle all the change orders with the project contingencies and allowance that we have set aside.
That's beautiful. That's really nice to hear. The current elevation, has it been backfilled yet? Or?
Yeah, I skipped that. 95% of the building site has been backfilled to elevation 8. So
Elevation 8.
there's only a little bit of the front area that has it because we're installing underground utilities and reconnecting.
Fantastic. Any thank you, Eli. You've done an amazing job on this. Any comments or questions? Yeah.
Well, obviously, I'm happy to see that this is going the way we expected it to, and ahead of schedule. And glad finally this hopefully will be put to bed. Eli, can you tell us how much did we go over because of the added fill, the contaminated fill? Above what was appropriated, did we, or were we?
No, not what was above what we appropriated. Everything was within. We do not need authorization to spend more money on the project.
That's great. Good to hear.
Comments?
Agreed, and just thank you for all of your work on this and for the frequent updates at this meeting and just being copied on the reports. Fighting is behind us very soon.
And in terms of the people's fears of flooding at 8 feet versus what they if the additional 3 feet that was there prior to this FEMA NOV, we just are in the process of choosing a vendor for the flood and erosion master plan, which will include coastal and hill sites, and Eli was part of that process as well. Thank you. So item number 9, project manager Eli Gazal. To hear, consider, and act on approving a second amendment to power purchase agreement between CEFIA Holdings LLC in the town of Fairfield and appropriating the funds for the $91,920.40 partial buyout payment required under the agreement. This payment will be funded from the town's fill pile fund. And to hear, consider, and act on approving a first amendment to system site lease agreement between Sophia Holdings LLC and the town of Fairfield. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Eli,
All right, so behind the tennis facility is a Julian Fill site. Unfortunately, we were remediating behind there. We needed to remove the solar panels. Our original plan was to remove them and then reinstall them. Once we were doing the Julian Fill cleanup, we hit a historical hotspot, which ended up providing us with the highest PCB parts per million hit that we've ever seen. So we are actively cleaning that up. So the cleanup took a little bit longer than we anticipated. Because of that, we started to incur what they call profits, energy profits. So after doing an analysis, we decided that it's cheaper to end up buying out just that one array, not the total system, where we are doing the clean out. We do not know right now if we have to put a land restriction use just on that one area where the solar panels used to be. So that's why it's a better idea to buy out the system. One, it's cheaper, and two, we don't know if we're going to be able to put it back in.
so just so people who don't remember, they found while remediating Julian Fill, found a couple of buried generators, is that right?
Transformers were dumped behind the tennis facility
20 years ago?
Yeah, about 20 years ago, late 90s. There was a partial cleanup. I guess they didn't do such a great job cleaning it up back then. So there was PCBs that were detected in that area. And we are
Everyone knows why and for who dumped transformers back then?
We've done an investigation, the police department was involved, where we were able to find out who dumped it, what companies. They're no longer in business, unfortunately, so it's still illegal whether you actively seek for funds.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Yeah, Brenda.
Thank you. I'm familiar with this, but we haven't, I realized when I was looking through this backup, we haven't had a fill pile update or any information about where we are on the fill pile, what the status is with DEEP, EPA. I understand we have to pull this money out to do this work, but where are we even on this project?
On this project or on the main pile?
And the fill pile, because obviously it's coming out of the fill pile fund. And the fill pile is, a juggernaut of an issue.
Well, on the main pile, we're going back and forth with the EPA through our LEP. So there's like comments and then questions and then answering the question. So we're just still in that process, believe it or not. We have, we've had a couple of meetings with our LEP and our attorneys on that. So right now, we still don't have answers from them as to what they want or are going to require us to do to remediate the main pile. But on the other Frank Wright Trail, do you want to?
Yeah. We are the only site that's left. So the tennis facility, we completed the Julian Fill side. This is more historical, so you can cross it, mark it green on the matrix. The only site that's left on the matrix is actually the Frank Rice Senior Trail. Other than the Frank Rice Senior Trail and the fill pile, these are the only two main sites that we have.
And my understanding is Frank Wright Trail, we are actually waiting because there were some issues with the fact that trail was never approved in the first place to be built.
That is correct. Yeah, we're still under negotiations with DEEP because the trail is technically on a closed landfill. And for you to put a trail on a closed landfill, you need to have some sort of reuse permit, and the town never get a reuse permit. So we don't know how that trail was created. We don't know if residents created it. We don't know if it was actually formed as a trail. We don't know that information. So we are actually still negotiating.
So just to follow up, Eli, the tennis, are we done cleaning that up?
Julian Fill wise, yes.
No, the historical PCBs.
They are about 50% done as of today.
And how much is it gonna cost to finish the other 50%?
Total, we're looking at about $500,000 to clean up this historical.
Okay,
Unfortunately, it's high level PCBs.
no,
They
I
don't-
know, I remember.
It's expensive to get rid of.
So this is just to just be really clear, I know this there's a lot of words on this contract, just to remove the solar array, is this what this is?
Yeah, one amendment is to remove the solar array, and then the second amendment is to amend the site lease agreement, which shows which arrays are left.
Okay. If we could, Bill, just for the, for the record, if we could at some point have, a little bit of an update, even, I know there's not a whole lot coming in and out, but just to sort of, what are they asking us? What are the comments? I mean, it is a big deal. And I think because time has passed, I think people forget, we're talking about all these capital projects, we're talking about all this stuff. And I think people are forgetting that we have, a pretty big unknown sitting there. And I think it's probably helpful just to remind people that we do have a serious situation sitting there, and it could be quite expensive.
Sure, I think that makes sense. We'll have to clear everything with our attorneys to make sure that, because a lot of these negotiations are, I'm not actually involved in them, it's through third parties, and a lot of it, I believe, is just where the sampling and the extent of sampling that should be done, which is a big deal and a big cost. So, and also how the sampling is done, like what the array looks like and what happens if you find something and how you spread that out and how many more samples you do. It's statistics, I guess, but we'll look into that.
Thank you.
We need to vote on item number 9, right? So, any comments from the public? Yes, Mary.
We get information on the amount of energy, the array that you're looking for.
Yeah, it actually, it's a loss of 30 kilowatt direct current. So it's not really in kilowatt hours, yeah, kilowatt direct current.
Thank you.
We can't put back on any, because if you can't use the site, why wouldn't we put someone back on?
It would probably be a land use restriction, depending on the cleanup and the results of the cleanup. You might have to pull a land use restrictions from.
But we don't have back and forth usually with the public. If public comment, you can make a comment, like a comment like, can you look into putting back we'll discuss it. We have discussed it already, we'll discuss it again once we know what the restrictions are on the site. But any other comments? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.
So the next is Jim Wendt, Town Plan and Zoning Department Director. This requires RTM approval because it involves land. To hear, consider, and act approving a property line revision between the town of Fairfield as the owner of 150, and the owner of 150 Villa Avenue, and Alan Diamond as the owner of 91 Algonquin Road, and further authorizing the first selectman to sign any and all documents to effectuate the property line revision. May I have a motion?
Second.
Excuse me, good afternoon. You may recall, in 2022, the town acquired property 150 Villa Avenue, as one of several areas designated for Rooster River stormwater detention and open space purposes. At one point, 150 Villa Avenue and 91 Villa Avenue were owned by the same entity, and when those properties were divided, the property line was created, apparently inadvertently crossed over a small portion of a retaining wall and access to the tennis court that's on 91 Algonquin. The owner of 91 Algonquin is seeking to adjust that property line to eliminate that encroachment. It's about a 200 square foot area. They're looking to do a property swap. It's adjusting the property line so that we're getting an equal amount of property in return, so there's no monetary compensation involved here. This has been reviewed by Bill Hurley and Tim Bishop to ensure that this property line adjustment doesn't interfere with the town's proposed use of 150 Villa. This fellow is looking to sell his property and his buyer is looking to bet. There is a fence encroachment on the town's land. It's not resolved by this matter, so I would recommend that as a condition of this lot line revision, that the owner of 91 Algonquin eliminate the existing fence encroachment.
Any comments or questions? Yeah, I think that is already noted in the backup documents.
Well, the owner of 91 Villa is acknowledging there is a fence encroachment. Mr. Bishop's email back to confirming that it doesn't impact future use of the property is recommending chain link fence encroachment on the town land be removed. So that's owned, it was. When the current owner of 91 Algonquin purchased his property, it was his presumption that the property line was coincident with the fence line, and that was not an accurate presumption.
Right.
And he's aware of that encroachment and is planning on, I would suggest that as a condition of adjusting his property line, that he moved the fence so it's coincident with the property.
So that would, as a condition of my signing this agreement, he will have to move.
Yeah, I would recommend it making that a condition of the transfer.
Right, okay.
And how much property, how much is he encroaching? Like, is it a lot of piece? Is it a huge amount?
Well, the fence line encroachment is fairly substantial. The area of the encroachment he originally came in and wanted to adjust the property line to be coincident with the fence line. That was reviewed internally and rejected because that was too much property to give up that we've acquired and would have entailed a financial analysis of what the worth of that would be. But the bigger issue was it would have interfered with the town's future use of that property. So that scenario was rejected. And he revised his proposal to just do a very modest property line swap, just to then eliminate the physical encroachment of this retaining wall and the stair access to the tennis court, which is about 200 square feet. The fence encroachment remains, but the town owns that property today. So I suppose the town could go in and remove the fence tomorrow if we wanted to, but if he's, I think it's in his interest to resolve this to his buyer's satisfaction, so I think we have a willing owner that would.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything to it.
No, I would just need to make sure that this is in the final agreement, yeah. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jim. I'm just making that note. Thanks, Jim. Okay, item 11, Julie is here. James Ryan is here. Purchasing authority subject to the 11/25/2024 RTM approval. This is for the ARPA. To hear, consider an act on authorizing the authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and McKinney Mechanical Contractors, Inc., Newtown, Connecticut, to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary for the kitchen hood upgrade at the Bigelow Senior Center as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-19 and McKinney Mechanical Contractors bid submission dated October 31st, 2024 for a total base bid of $334,718 with additional authority to enter into change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. May I have a motion?
Second.
Jim.
How are you? Adam, I don't know if you could give me a little prelim or not.
Sure. Sure, yes, this is Adam Tulin. Yeah, not a whole lot on this one. We put out this bid. McKinney Mechanical was the only bidder. So I just want to state that. We've prepared a pretty standard contract that Town Attorney Pierce has already reviewed and okayed, but we won't do anything with that. Pending your approval of the contract today, we won't do anything with it until the RTM has approved additional funding. I'll just say I know Mr. Ryan did go over the bid with McKinney Mechanical and felt comfortable. So I'm not sure if he has anything to add or if you have any specific questions.
Yeah, absolutely. They were the only response. So we did have a scope review at the opening. Couple of questions came up about the roofing and the air conditioning units being in the ceiling, and we accounted for all of that. You know, it's an extensive project because it entails every trade. It's electricians, carpenters, plumbers, HVAC guys, installation, ductwork guys, all at prevailing wage. So yeah, it's gonna be a big project, but again, this is the third phase of ARPA funds that we received for the senior center to tackle upgrading their bathrooms, replacing their rooftop units, now the kitchen hood. So I mean, it's kind of, we're at the finish line with this ARPA funds, and it, you know, 3 major items on our list.
Yeah, I think most people are familiar with the projects, and the only change was the bid was a little bit higher than, or 10% higher than expected.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was based off of the last time we did a kitchen hood was at Burr Mansion in like 2017. $190,000 or something, if I remember correctly. This is a lot bigger kitchen and a lot bigger hood. You know, so the roofing is a big part. It's a warranted roof for 20 years, so you know, you have to get the right roofer to penetrate the roof. And as for everything else, it seems like it's gonna be all right.
So, any comments or questions?
Just to clarify, the 40,000 we transferred from ARPA, this is to plug into this?
Yeah, I forget it was exactly 40, I can't remember, yeah.
40 in a sense, it's kind of covering the contingency.
Yep.
33 is the contingency, so we're that shy, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
This board approved $1 million for feasibility studies, and Mona Terrace was one building that we were looking at for potentially for the part of the building the Child's Garden is located. Would doing this work at all affect any future work on the other part of the building?
This doesn't affect the Child's Garden portion of it, although knows what the needs are for the kitchen. This is upgrading the kitchen hood to code. So I don't, it's to be determined on what we're doing with the Child's Garden portion of it, right? I mean, so, but this is really just the kitchen, which is smack in between the senior center and Child's Garden. There are entrances to the Child's Garden space.
Really just thinking more of any venting or HVAC work that needs to be done in the Child's Garden.
Absolutely.
And how that, if it ties in at all to what we're doing now. I don't wanna necessarily put money in that, few years ripping out because something else.
Isolated unit for the kitchen over the stove and oven.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any comments? You're good, Julie? This is your kitchen hood. So thank.
Exciting.
It is exciting. Any other comments? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Hurley. Purchasing authority, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and Barton and Luguides LLC, Glastonbury, Connecticut, to provide design services and all else necessary for the Heath Road Culvert and Bronson Bridge Culvert replacement projects as detailed in Town of Fairfield RFP number 2025-23 and Barton and Luguides proposal dated October 16th, 2024 for a total initial contract of $239,465. May I have a motion?
Second.
Bill.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have Adam really describe this, since this was an RFP that the purchasing department had put out. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer it for this one.
Sure, yep, this is Adam again. We put out RFP 2025-23. We received 2 responses. After reviewing the responses, we were able to identify with, I'm gonna just call them B and L because I don't know how to pronounce their name. We were able to identify, their initial proposal was actually a bit higher, but we were able to identify through our sort of normal scope review process that there was some additional work they had initially included that was not actually needed, and they ended up becoming lower. Again, of course, cost is not the only factor in awarding an RFP, but I did just want to mention that was a pretty successful scope review scenario where we were able to cut some costs and also bring in a vendor that hasn't done much work in the town before. I know from a sourcing perspective, we've been really trying to see where we can, broaden our horizons. So I think this is a success from that angle.
That's great. Thanks, Adam. I do have
I just wanted to add that you did check the reference because, as Adam said, this is a newer company for us. They have done bridges in Newtown and Easton with positive results.
Thanks, Bill. Can I ask a question about the culverts and the design of them? We're reconstructing them, but are we widening them as well? Are we making them bigger, or how does that work? And the reason I'm asking is of the flooding, in Oxford and all that. So, yeah.
Well, it all depends on in the RFP, we have them at least do a hydraulic analysis of each of the culverts. In some of the cases where the culverts only have what we call a low cover and the water goes over the road anyway, you can enlarge the culvert without any downstream impacts per se, and so that would be acceptable. If there is something what they call backwater or head where the roadway's up high and the culvert's low, it kind of acts as a dam, and so if we were to increase that pipe size, then that bombs out the downstream. So you have to do an analysis for that, but there is potential for either one, and like any of the culvert projects, we always can go out a little bit further and remove any sediment or clear any obstructions or improve what they call the entrance flow going into the culvert to help increase the capacity a little bit. So we always have those options as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Christine.
For the Bronson Bridge culvert, these numbers are for a non-tidal bridge. If the bridge is tidal, it will have the same fee as Reef Road above, so I'm assuming this is a non-tidal bridge?
Yeah, and then that's what Adam was referring to, where the price went lower when you take that deduction.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Thanks, Phil. Okay.
Same setup for
You're not going anywhere, yeah. So 13, purchasing authority, subject to 11/25/24 RTM approval. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and Beta Group, Inc. of Hartford, Connecticut, to provide Phase 1 survey services for improvements to Reading, Sturgis, and Mill Plain roads as detailed in beta proposals dated October 2nd and October 3rd, 2024, for an initial contract amount of $316,500 with additional authority to enter into subsequent proposed contract phases upon mutual agreement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Adam, do you wanna take that?
Adam, wanna start off again, just with the procedure?
Oh, Meg
Yeah,
is,
so yep, just to start off, I guess I'll just mention the wording at the end of this it comes from an earlier draft. I believe that 316,500 does include all subsequent phases. I had initially proposed just phase one when I initially submitted this, so I don't know if you wanna.
oh, it's not all subsequent phases, this is survey and design.
Okay, so from a procurement standpoint, we solicited these proposals from Beta Group as a respondent to an on-call transportation engineering services RFP from 2023. That's 2023-33R. And Beta prepared a contract based on the proposals that engineering reviewed and was happy with. Attorney Pierce has reviewed the contract and is happy with it. So we're just here to get your authorization, subject to RTM approval of some funding, to get this contract executed.
Anything you wanna add?
Just following up, this is the same Beta, that a group that provides the pavement management software. They've given us positive results so far, so we got no issues with that. The survey and design, we're kind of slowing them down a little bit just to make sure that any other phases may be incorporated with that Reading Road grant. So we just have them right now, we'll have them do the design and the survey and then the design in steps to make sure that
Right.
you know, we if
Because
we're eligible, then we wanna use some of that money for that grant. And then as far as the other Mill Plain Road and Sturgis, I mean, we've had some preliminary concepts from engineering to have a fresh look and look at different concepts and provide maybe preliminary plans for those roadways where we've gotten a lot of complaints. That's what the remainder of the contract's for.
Right, so the $1 million that Representative Kitt secured for us for these projects, those would typically be for the building, or not for the survey.
There's a small component that we could include design.
Right.
But it's, the majority of that grant is for construction, correct?
Right, so we're kicking this off with the money that we're securing through.
Right, that kind of gets the ball rolling.
This gets the ball rolling, yeah.
Tries to shorten up the construction schedule, if you know what I mean.
Right, so the funding for that was approved by the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and hopefully on Monday by the RTM for this. And this is the contract, one of the contracts that.
Mark Barnhart had submitted the required materials a couple weeks ago. So we're just awaiting, final word from the state.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? Brenda?
So I'm confused. So this is this regarding the whole thing that the design about Reading Road that took place a while back? How is this integrated here?
It's a full design, Brenda. Remember we did the audit,
Yeah.
We in the audit report, there were 6 intersections that needed an improvement. And this is inclusive of all the 6 intersections, designing, surveying, part of this contract.
What about the roundabout, which we designed in-house?
Roundabout, we did it in-house, excluding the
Right.
in-house, all the other intersections, including the pathways along that 4 mile of stretch for Reading Road to analyze. This is why we have to do the survey to know the right of way and if the pathway is feasible along Reading Road. So that's the whole scope this contract has that we did the audit last time.
And are we still looking at the easements? We were looking at that prior about how people put fences and stone
Yes.
Yeah,
walls.
that's what the survey work is,
That's
to
right of
see.
way survey.
What, Mega?
Yes, that's a right of way surveying part. This is what we will determine that what the encroachment of the fence is or retaining wall is.
Right. And what are we looking at on Mill Plain? I know we looked at some things there with the police, but what else are we looking at?
So Mill Plain Road is all the stretches of those main intersections, Umpqua, Fife intersection, and then there will be more intersection listed in the contract, so all the stretch of the Mill Plain Road that we are looking just for the preliminary analysis and the countermeasure analysis. So what the consultants will do for Sturgis and Mill Plain, they will evaluate the countermeasures and we will figure out which countermeasure is best feasible along that roadway. And once we determine it, then we will go to the next step that may require a survey or maybe not require a survey. So that will be specifically as we do in-house, just analyzing by GIS like we did it for Miller Avenue and then roundabout.
And I'm assuming the police are involved, right? The traffic
Yes.
authority.
Yes, in that order that we did, Mill Plain Police Department and any countermeasures will be represented to the police LTA for their approval.
Did we make that resident who's on the corner of that four-way intersection pull his bushes back?
Yes, we did that. Yes, we made
Where the property line is.
property
Yeah.
line is to improve
Right.
the sight line for the.
Yeah, because that's obviously a little bit of a problem. All right, very good, thank you.
Any questions? Any comments from the public? Back to the board, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. This next one, if I may, instead of reading the original, Bill submitted some revised wording. Do you want me to read the revised wording, which I think I have here? Yeah, so if I may, instead of reading the revised wording and going through and asking to amend, it's basically the same, but Bill put in some different terminology based on, I suppose, on what's actually in the grant, right?
Yeah,
So
the numbers and the organizations and all that stuff remains the same. It's just some text.
So may I make a motion to amend item number 14 as follows. Engineering manager, this requires Board of Finance and RTM approval to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the engineering manager. Whereas the town of Fairfield, or town, has been awarded a Safe Street for All grant in the total amount of $350,000 by the United States federal government as part of the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA. And whereas the grant requires funds from the town in the amount of $87,500, funding and in-kind services for the creation of a safety action plan. And now therefore be it resolved that $87,500 be and hereby is appropriated for the safety action plan, and further resolved that first selectman be and hereby is authorized to accept, appropriate, and expend said grant and execute any and all required documents to effectuate said grant. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Comments?
So, okay, this is just to get this grant money,
Yeah.
but I see also, and I don't know if this is associated with this item, is this?
No, it's loosely associated. That is just really an update. But should we vote on the amendment first and then okay.
Yep.
So any comments from the public on the amendment? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Right.
May I have a motion to discuss the amended item?
Second.
So Brenda, go ahead with your question.
I'm trying to understand, so I understand we're utilizing this grant and it says safe streets in this item. So I'm assuming the safe streets is part of this draft plan, is it?
No, so it's all Safe Street, that is a part of Safe Streets, but this is for a grant to come up with a plan, it's a planning grant for the town to identify problem areas of traffic in town. Safe Street SS4A grants are federal grants that are used towards most of this round is for.
If you want, I can just highlight a
Yeah,
couple
go ahead.
of points in the 14 points. As Bill said, we were awarded this federal grant. We just have to have an agreement in place with the federal government, and then we can get started. It's really called the Safety Action Plan, and that will identify and pinpoint all the serious injury and fatality crashes in the town and provide a goal-setting safety analysis. It involves public engagement and collaboration. There's strategies and potential project selections and solutions for that. We're gonna look at all the roads in town, including the state roads, with the exception of the Merritt Parkway and Connecticut Turnpike. So we were gonna have them look at the state highways as well. And it really is, the project goal is to reduce the serious injuries and fatalities towards a vision zero on the Fairfield roadways. We'll conduct a safety analysis, and again, it's for the benefit of all the users of the road, the pedestrians, the cyclists, the vulnerable users, and even includes underserved communities. So this was a competitive grant. I think only 4 were awarded in the round that we had gotten. And so project costs are $437,500. The grant reimburses $350. There is a town share, but we can include personnel. We just have to get a record of all the hours that if there's a volunteer group or town personnel, we have to work with finance to create those documents and send them in. And so that's what we're coming up with. And if there was any, the goal, the current plan is any of the remainder would come out of a bond issuance for the complete streets, the
So-
dollars.
So could I just ask Bill, so you're saying that this 437 is gonna include an analysis of every single street in our entire town?
They'll have speed, they'll have all the now there might be some roads like dead end roads, they probably do a very cursory look at, but they are, the intent is to look at every street and roadway. And they're gonna use a lot of this based on the Connecticut crash repository, which has all the crashes listed on it. And they'll look at volumes, they'll look at speeds, and we might even be able to, I was just talking to the FHWA just yesterday, the traffic management software program that we could have the consultant buy, we'll have access to it, and then we could use it and analyze some additional information ourselves as well. So it's a good grant, and the goal of, once you get this grant, that really opens up the box or the plan for demonstration projects and implementation projects. Because the way the federal government goes, it's like climbing up a ladder. You can't just automatically do the implementation projects. They want you to go through these steps, and this would be the first step.
No, I think it's great. I think the grant is great. I just feel like, just based on what you're saying it's gonna be doing, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of man hours coming out of our engineering department for this. Far more than $25,000 worth. And I know you guys are really underwater as it is, and I know you're down a man in the department. I feel like you're gonna you're gonna exceed $25,000. It's a massive project, and I think it's lovely and it's a good thing. I just don't know how you guys are gonna manage it with everything else on your plate.
Well, it's 87.5, but your point is well taken for the amount of work.
We could, as I said, that would, if we end up using more, then we can renegotiate, or there's some flexibility. I did talk to the FHWA on that, and there is some flexibility to that. We were just estimating, I just wanted to give it a middle of the road estimate. I didn't want to say all 87,000 was in kind, because if it's not, that's misleading a little bit.
Yeah.
But if we end up using 50,000 that's eligible, then yeah, that would chip away at the town, any town funding that's needed.
So getting this approved will allow us to go out to bid with one of the leading traffic planning consulting companies, and then Bill and Mega will definitely be spending time with them. But on your first question about the right-of-way manual, that Mega and Bill have spent a ton of time putting together the first draft of the right-of-way manual, which was part of the Complete Streets Ordinance, and so we have an initial draft, and we're in the process of reviewing it, but they wanted to put it out there for people to just get a sense of what it's.
That is our next item on the agenda. Your vote.
Yeah. And since Brenda asked about it, when we're ready, we'll just jump right into that. So. Any other questions, Brenda, or comments?
No.
Oh, exciting.
Okay, yeah, very, very exciting.
Thank you to everybody, who
thank you.
on this grant.
Yeah, so we had this was initially identified by a group of bike ped advocates, and then Bill and Mega have been putting a lot of time into working with them, and recently Bill working with the feds in making sure that we're adhering to their requirements. But I will probably forget everyone, but Sarah Roy, Jeff Randolph, Sarah Mason, Anya Mezick, Terry Brown, yes, Terry Brown worked with them as well. So they identified this, came in and presented it to us, and Bill and Mega have worked with them to actually make it happen. So thank you. Any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's great. I'm so excited about this. So now we can go up to after the RTM. So next item, the engineering manager Bill Hurley and senior civil engineer Mega Jane. They're here to talk about the Complete Streets right-of-way manual and where they are with that, and the draft that is in the backup.
As required, by the Complete Streets Ordinance, the Fairfield Engineering Department has submitted the semi-final draft of the Complete Streets right-of-way manual. The manual is broken up into 5 sections with some flexibility to either add sections, or if somebody thought it was confusing, to take away. I'll just go, rather than go through the whole thing, I'll just go by sections here. Section 1 explains the complete streets, and it defines what the right-of-way consists of. Section 2 defines the design process and who's involved. Section 3 takes into account the Fairfield street types, walkable and bikeable corridors. Section 4 provides street components and treatments, and includes Fairfield and other details that are used in engineering practice. That's where I think most of the public's gonna concentrate on chapter 4. Section 5 describes component checklists that would be incorporated into our roadways or into the roadway projects. There was an optional section 6 for reference or other policies. We didn't know if, putting the ordinance in or Vision 0 or 20 is plenty, any of these initiatives. Police are lowering speed limits at the school zones. So we didn't know where to put that in. Does it belong in the right-of-way manual? So we're seeking public comment for that. And as I mentioned, the right-of-way manual is in semi-final form, And Megan can give you a little update what she's gonna add to it. But I'd also like to thank Mega, who provided a lot of the content and really did an incredible job by creating easy to read, yet full of detailed slides that you would have gotten text, and she did a really good job turning it over to something really, I think, very professional.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I mean, I think the level of details is really the exact right balance, so that people who have a certain type of, live on a certain type of street, and they're looking to see what is possible or what really fits for their type of street, they know where to go. So they don't ask for things or have an expectation of things that they really can't have, but they know what might make sense. This will not only educate the public, but it will educate our consultants, and going forward, people who are bidding on projects, they can look at this and get a sense of what the priorities are in the town. Do you wanna? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, anything that is forthcoming, just to the index is definitely forthcoming, sorry, I was organizing, so the index is going to be there in the future one. Another thing that I'm working on, the maps, the main component in section 2 where the street types are, so this is how we have analyzed the street types, which is based on the land use, functional classification, and from so land use is a basis, is a foundation. On top of that is a functional classification, and from function classification we are going to the bike connectivity and pedestrian connectivity. So those are the 4 main components that fits together on one map, and I'm actually working on producing a best vendor map so that it tells us where is the bike connectivity is the highest density and where is the pedestrian connectivity of the highest density, because they're the most prioritized, should be most prioritized for pedestrian accommodation. And once that is done, then we go based on, like, specifically if you go towards the northern section of the Fairfield, where it's like a low density residential, meaning more acres and less volume, not much high density as compared to the southern side of the Fairfield. So that's just like Reading Road, and what kind of countermeasures will fit. Right now we are having a challenging part of Reading Road where the pathway is very challenging to put on. So those are forthcoming. We will be putting all the projects that we have implemented so far in replace of the pictures that is coming, and how we have implemented each of the street types. So that will be replaced with some of the pictures that has specific. Then another thing, the high matrix that you have seen, that's a very important part, that how we prioritize each and every street type and what kind of countermeasures fit into each street type. You have seen the diagrams, the photographs. The matrix I will be building out based on our experience with the matrix that I have provided is a similar experience that we have worked in Fairfield with our experience. So that will be a little bit more touch bases. And the implementation part is very important. This is what we follow when DPW is paving the street, or maintaining the street, or when we are doing the design work, or we are touching any existing, or we are analyzing any countermeasures. So for the implementation that is in the manual based on experience. And we will be also putting the exceptional part, which is part of the ordinance right now. If the exceptions are there, what are the steps that we will be following? We will add the details to it, so that whenever somebody wants to construct, they know what kind of details to follow and what the right way. Last, one thing that I will always will be working on will be also creating a GIS software, where I'm working with MetroCog to do the completion of the GIS. So when you can click and you can view your street, which project is ongoing, which is forthcoming, and which street has to be prioritized. So that's something.
And to keep the manual relatively small and comfortable, we're gonna try to have some links to it as well, because otherwise we can make it 500 pages. But I think to make it readable for most people,
and possible with
right.
realistically, we try our best.
Hopefully you like what we have.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is, and I'm so excited to, I mean, not everyone, even I, have read more than most people, so people who have never read about this stuff at all when they pick this up, I do think they'll be able to understand, what's in here, so.
We try to balance
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
public and engineers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Brenda?
Thank you. So obviously you both put a tremendous amount of time. I can't even imagine how much time you put into this. A lot. So a couple things come to mind. Obviously, I would imagine the police were involved in assisting with this.
Yes, police, the process that we have mentioned, that's a police department process that we created last year, 2023. That's a process that currently that we are following and is part of the right of way manual. So yes, LTA is.
So I mean, obviously, we're pretty familiar where the worst areas of town are. So with this whole, new complete streets, so is there like a budget attached, Bill, to this initiative? Are we planning to have a coordinator be in charge of this? It's going to be in the budget next year. Is that something?
Yeah, there will be a budget, and that's part of the ordinance is requiring, a separate, line item for the budget.
So, okay. And I mean, I'm assuming, I'm just looking through this as, while we're all talking. I mean, are we going to be revising the capital of the waterfall list? Because I mean, just looking through this, I mean, we're talking a large amount of capital improvements, and I think it's great, but I think the waterfall has to be adjusted to.
Well, we did put money in the waterfall for it, but just keep in mind, as we talked about it last year when I was on the RTM and presenting this, that for the most part, the requirement to do this work is when streets are coming up on the paving schedule, and that would spark a review, because we don't want to pave a street and then go back and rip it up. But so for example, Mill Plain is ready to be paved, so we're doing this study on Mill. That's one of the reasons, other than the fact that a lot of kids are walking and crossing Mill Plain, but it was on the schedule, so we want to get this study done before the paving. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a 20-year. This is a 20-year project. It may be a 30-year project. We've got a lot of streets in town. Yeah, so it's not all going to be done at once.
No, I get it. It's just, I know I think Bill, I think, and Mega probably already know where our hot spots are in town, just based on our feedback over the many years. I'm looking through here. I know that Mill Plain we discussed back when we went and met with those, the neighbors, they were talking about wanting no parking on the entire street. So that there would be more room for people to walk and stuff. And I don't know if that's still a thing that people are talking about.
I think what people are talking about most is speeding and being able to cross at the different intersections. So I don't know what data is going to come back with, but Bill, I would assume it's going to be traffic calming measures and safe crossing.
That would be the most part, but there is I know the Bike and Ped Committee has expressed interest in an exclusive bike lane, and so rather than give just an Fairfield engineering opinion on it, having a consultant to say this road isn't right for it, or they might say this road can handle it.
Right.
And so it's kind of like we're using it as a second opinion,
right?
Just to make sure that one way or the other, that it just gives us the backup.
Well, you obviously both did a tremendous amount of work on it.
I think it's great. I think it's a great, just as a resource, as work is being done in town, that we have a place where everybody can go and know what the guidelines are. Mr. Gerber, to you, just getting this out when you feel it's ready for more widespread
Well, it's out now, it's in the backup, so.
I know, but I mean, like,
So-
put it, I would say post this in the newsletter and
Yeah.
everything, and just have
Yeah.
it be, I mean, it's
I mean,
so interesting, I mean, so interesting.
so glad
and
that
I-
it's out there in the public realm because they put so much work into this, and you're gonna hear, you know, what about this, what about that, but and you know, that's part of the natural process, but I think this, you know, we're probably maybe out of 100 comments, there might be a few that you want to consider. We'll see, but yeah.
It
See.
brings it all out and like you said there, because it really is almost like two-pronged. The one is the complete streets, and then like we were talking about before, well, can we do this traffic calming measure? That's where the safe routes for all, safe streets for all, comes into play, because that will have the factual and the data backup as well to say, this is why you can do it, or this is why you can't do it.
Right. And hopefully at some point, our residents will know where to go so they don't all ask for stop signs or speed bumps.
Yes.
They'll know that they're not appropriate for certain areas, yeah.
Bill, can I ask, do you know if they're gonna be reviewing sort of our zoning applications? I mean, I just read in the paper that there's a proposal now for like hundreds of apartments on the old Circle, the Circle Fairfield Inn, and I mean, there's obviously some big things, you know, that's gonna have a huge impact on traffic, on congestion, all that stuff. Are they gonna let them know about those so that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, but I think Bill and Meg are working with the state on that, yeah.
A perfect example is one of their proposals, we have an engineer looking at the post road jug handle.
Yeah.
At that project. And so we were looking at making sure that their driveway lines up properly with our proposal. So that's just another example of making sure that gets, you know, incorporated, and we look at there's a transit stop there as well.
Yep.
And a missing sidewalk section. So all that will be part of the process.
Well, I mean, the overall analysis of the group that we just approved, I mean, I think they would make sense for them, not just the post road proposal, but you know, there's a lot of big developments being proposed around town, and they should just take it into consideration. The town's just getting so much more crowded every single year.
Yeah, I mean, for example, what you were talking about, I think you're talking about the Circle Inn.
Yeah.
So if that has, I'm sure people there, if that happens, are gonna wanna walk across the street and go shopping at ShopRite or Stop and Shop. Sorry, Stop and Shop. So they're gonna have to consider that, I'm sure, in the design. Yeah.
Omega goes to the code enforcement meetings with zoning.
Yeah.
And one of the links we would provide is the plan of conservation and development, which obviously zoning and conservation have a big part in. So we would tie that in.
Very good.
So feel like so uplifted by this. Thank you. Thanks.
There should be,
for all your
a
work.
link to this should be in the P O C D.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Angelus is here. Number 16, Board of Education, this requires RTM approval. Resolved that the town of Fairfield authorizes the Board of Education of the town of Fairfield to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject the grant for the Stratfield partial roof replacement project at Stratfield Elementary School, and further resolved that the Stratfield Elementary School partial roof building committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the Stratfield partial roof replacement project at Stratfield Elementary School. And further resolved that the town of Fairfield hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the Stratfield partial roof replacement project at Stratfield Elementary School. I don't know why I have to say the Stratfield roof and the Stratfield Elementary School, because the roof wouldn't be at another
All right.
building. Sorry. But we have a motion.
So moved.
Do you think is it possible to take all the education ones sort of as a group? Because I mean, they're all pretty much associated, they're partial proof.
I'm good with that.
I mean,
Are you okay with that? Or,
I mean, these are things we all know about, we've already talked about.
yeah.
They're not surprises in any way.
Typos.
Do you mind if we take 16, 17, 18, 19?
19, 20,
20,
they're all roofs.
21.
21. Sure.
So 16 through 21, do I need to take a motion? I'd like to combine them. May I have a motion to combine? Well, I'd like to make a motion to combine, or Brenda, you made the motion. I'm gonna second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Can I have a motion to waive the reading?
Absolutely.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So, all of the school, roof, projects, let's see, that was 16 through 21.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So, as you know, all the funding has been approved, the specs have been approved by the Board of Education, and this is our formality to get qualified for state reimbursement. We're asking that these projects be assigned to the Standing Operating Building Committee. Once that's done, we need RTM approval as well. We are on their schedule for Monday, as long as we are approved today. It goes to the state before the deadline of the holidays, so that we can hopefully do that.
Fantastic. Any comments?
No questions, I
Any questions? Any comments from the public? Yes.
Typos in the backup.
In the backup,
You obviously copied it, and so the first paragraph is correct for the second two, but then it uses the same, just so you have it right, that's all I just wanted to make sure.
which, say the backup, you don't mean the agenda.
So like McKinley, it says, but the first paragraph, MESRBC, but then the rest of them are P, because that was the original document, I guess. So you just need to fit.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a big deal, but just so that.
Oh, yeah, thank you, to get the backup corrected.
For the charge.
For the charge, okay.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Nothing dramatic, just so when you send it to
I'm
somebody
impressed.
else.
That's
On my phone, no less, yeah.
That is impressive, so. Haven't voted yet, right? Okay, any other comments?
That wasn't really my comment. My comment is really just that in the past, we had a policy that when we did roof replacements, we would automatically assume to put on solar, and I saw that you had the green part in there. I'm just hoping that that would be included in your thinking. Especially since we're losing now some arrays that I didn't know about at the dump. So, thank you.
I would imagine if it can be done.
These are partial though, right?
These are partial roof replacements, but we can, a lot of our roofs have partial solar arrays based on the part of the roof that is replaced, so we will continue to look at solar.
Awesome. Well, in your report, awesome. All right, back to the board. May all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Good.
You're
Good seeing
welcome,
you.
Angeles, you get to leave early.
Angeles, I almost was gonna put you forward there, I was like, forward. How many more are there?
So thanks, Mary. Thanks for finding that. Item number 22, first selectman, here are updates from the first selectman. Just real briefly, we've identified a couple candidates through our CFO search and in the process of setting up interviews. And wanted to mention that the fire, just remind people that the fire department has issued a ban on all outdoor fires in in Fairfield to align with the state of emergency declaration. The ban includes fire pits, chimneys, open burns, and any previously permitted fires. This is really important because fires, as we could see today, I don't know how it started, but we actually were seeing haze in the air from a fire in eastern Connecticut. It was Weathersfield, was it? And some people have been ignoring this ban, but if you see somebody lighting a fire and they refuse to stop, please call 911 or call the fire station. I'm sorry, if you see a fire, call 911, and if you see someone lighting a fire, please call the police station. So the last thing I want to just mention is, as part of the Complete Streets effort and as part of the grant that we are going to receive, we will have a Vision Zero pledge that we'll be taking, and that just means that the town and various related departments are going to be signing a pledge saying that we have a goal, an aspirational goal of changing the way we look at our streets and the way we design our streets with the goal of eliminating fatal crashes. So with that, any announcements?
Just I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving next week.
Thank you. Laura.
And Santa's coming to the green, I guess, before our next meeting also. So if anybody wants to see Santa.
Bill, you also had listed 2 other items you were gonna update the board on.
Which ones?
Listed on here, it says CFO search and then the UI monopole.
Oh, we had a UI. I in the interest of time, I wasn't sure if you wanted to. I skipped this, but we had the town had a rally at FTC, Fairfield Theater Company. The guest speaker was Wes Haynes, and he is preservation advisor to the Mary and Eliza Freeman houses in Bridgeport, and he talked about the impact of the UI poles as designed on Little Liberia, which is a section of Bridgeport, settlement of free African Americans that began in 1831 and reached its highest population just prior to the Civil War. And it's a historical landmark that'll be significantly threatened by the project. I think that was.
Could I ask, while we're talking about that item, where are we on our spending on the, the suit that the town filed and all of that? Are we within the boundaries of what we put in?
We are. I could get you. I don't have the exact amount.
Maybe just send an update to Christine and I.
Sure.
That'd be great. And the CFO search.
Yeah, I mentioned that we'll be. We're in the process of setting up interviews for candidates that we've identified, and it was quite a process.
Could I just ask if we could maybe at our next meeting get an update? We're coming up on a year when you read the declaration regarding racial equity, and we were supposed to get like an update about what the town is implementing in town government, and so that we're following more of the diversity items that were listed in the report by the task force. And I was just wondering, where we are with that.
Absolutely, we can do an update next meeting.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay, any other items? All right, well, everyone have a great Thanksgiving. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Take care.
I can't believe it's next week.